So we just witnessed insanity that was insane to be kind of a fly on the wall in a negotiation room, kind of. I mean, here's the thing, like, heated negotiations have probably always happened, but it was fascinating to see it with cameras, with reporters all around, and just to see, like, real life peace talks just break down into chaos. And here's the thing, I feel like a lot of people are not able to understand why this is going to be extremely complicated to make happen. First of all, I don't know why they got on camera before they had a deal. There's a lot of explanations for that, but it's like they clearly don't have a deal, but they're going to take reporter questions right now. Why not wait till after? But they clearly didn't have a deal. They go on camera. Things seem to start off somewhat relatively okay, and then by the very end, it's like, arguments, and obviously Zelensky leaves the U.S., it goes back to Ukraine. There's no deal. He goes on Fox News for a little bit. But here's why this thing is so complicated, because I don't think a lot of people first of all, a lot of people just only watch the 5-minute clip, and a lot of people don't fully understand the history over there. So I'm going to break it all down for you. Here's the thing. What Zelensky wants and what he literally says inside of the interview that happens is he wants a security guarantee. And for me personally, I think I understand where he's coming from. I think I actually sympathize with Zelensky here, because he's been watching this happening. He's watched this happen every single day. His brothers, his cousins, his family, his friends, just people die straight up. I mean, he's like the guy that is seeing all of this. So his like pure hatred towards Putin, I think I can understand that. It's very easy for us, in the West, especially in the U.S., to kind of like separate all the things that are going on. But it's not too difficult to just like watch. I mean, I wouldn't advise it, but watching some of the footage that's taking place over there, you can see just how intense this fighting actually is. So obviously that's that's obviously going back up to Zelensky, the leader of Ukraine, him being extremely, extremely pissed and angry, and, not like wanting to punish Russia as much as possible. I kind of understand that. Here's the thing, though. He wants a security guarantee. He literally says it. He talks about it, I think, 3 different times. And he literally mentions 2014 when they took Crimea. Obviously, Putin just goes in again. And in 2022, you talk about the history of Ukraine being a part of the Soviet Union. There was horrific things that happened in the 1930s to Ukraine. There's a lot of history that takes place behind this, and for Zelensky, he just wants to guarantee his country's future, and I think I understand that. The problem is, and I literally made a video about this like 2 weeks ago, a week ago, is I argued what Putin is thinking about for this peace deal, and I literally mentioned like there is no way Putin allows Ukraine in NATO. He just cannot do that. He will not do that. He'll never take a deal that allows Ukraine to join NATO. So you gotta keep that in mind. So Ukraine joining NATO is completely off the table. Also for the U.S., I think they're putting themselves in a scary situation if they were to allow Ukraine in NATO. I mean, for the Americans, for all the NATO countries, because then you're really, I think that the degree at which we get closer to, I think this term gets thrown around way too often, but a World War III goes up significantly if you let Ukraine inside of NATO. That just can't happen, but from the U.S. and Russia, they both won't accept that. Ukraine is looking for some sort of other separate defense guarantee, something that just, because I get what Zelensky's saying, like they attacked in 2014, they stopped, they attacked again in 2022. This is not the first time Putin has attacked. Look at like Georgia, like other countries. And I kind of think that more than likely you can't really trust what Russia's going to do next. I literally mentioned it inside of my video too, like that if I'm arguing for Putin in the peace deal, it's I could just attack again. You know what I mean? You got to make sure that there's some sort of deal striked up for Ukrainian independence. But it kind of goes back to like the Cold War days. Like that's what kind of, somewhere, I mean, a lot of this is going back to the Cold War days. But at the end of the day, those were some extremely heated moments over the course of the, almost 50 years that the Cold War took place. There were moments obviously where things really spiked up, where maybe these two nuclear powers, these two powers that could literally end the world, would go to war. Obviously, the Cuban Missile Crisis was a heated moment. There's other moments outside of that, but both of them are kind of returning back to those days when it comes to. There's like a meme that like everyone shows where it's like these two barking dogs and they're barking at each other through a fence, and then the fence opens up and then they both just stop and they stop barking and they freeze, and then the gate goes back in front of them and they start barking again. That's kind of essentially what's happening here, just like in the Cold War, because at the end of the day, both sides do not want a nuclear war. We don't want to end, no matter how much you want to demonize Russia, and I think that we should definitely, something's got to be done about Russia, but no matter how much you want to demonize Russia, they probably don't want to end their entire country through nuclear war. That's pretty obvious, and obviously the U.S. doesn't want to do that either. So to go back to the point, Ukraine just can't take a deal. They're just not going to take a deal without some sort of like defense guarantee. They want something in the deal that's going to keep their country safe just so that they continue to live. Because, Trump argued that like, oh, well, Putin never crossed the line with me. He only did with, Obama or Biden. The problem is that, even if that is true and Putin doesn't cross the line with Trump, I mean, what, in 4 years when Trump's gone, he's going to cross the line then? So that's the thing. Yeah, I think that Ukraine is just trying to do something, and I don't really know how they're going to do that, because even when it comes to like the individual U.S. like defensive treaties that the U.S. has, like with Japan and Australia, the things that are outside of NATO, but there's still defensive agreements. Even with that, like I don't see how the U.S. can really guarantee Ukraine's independence without really risking a future world war or a future conflict between the U.S. and Russia. I mean, obviously NATO is just like hesitant to even put NATO troops inside of Ukraine. Putin has said multiple times he's not down for any sort of NATO soldiers to enter into Ukrainian territory. So these are these three little factors that are all coming together, and I don't know how exactly you're going to come to a deal unless it's like some sort of weird. I mean, there's the thing is that like Trump keeps talking about the rare earth minerals. I mean, you got to protect those, right? You got to be able to protect those. So there's got to be some defense involved. They're going to want to continue to mine out those resources for the foreseeable future. So you're at least going to want to protect those spots with those resources. But the problem is, I mean, those are just a couple spots. I mean, that's just like one small area. So there is some incentive for the U.S. to at least protect the American companies or the Ukrainian companies that are going to be mining those resources, but the overall country itself, there's a lot more worry behind that. I don't think Trump's going to want to sell Ukraine any more things. I mean, maybe there's a deal that can be made there. Maybe that's the only way without like a direct defensive pact the U.S. gets with Ukraine. Like maybe the U.S., continues to sell advanced weaponry to Ukraine for the foreseeable future. Obviously, Zelensky talked about certain air defenses in the very beginning of the 52-minute, ordeal that occurred. Maybe there's something like that, but the issue is that Ukraine doesn't have the manpower, and that's ultimately their problem now, and that's going to continue to be their problem, is they do not have the manpower. So it's what Zelensky and Ukraine probably wants is they want some sort of boots on the ground, because they probably cannot fight a future war. I mean, Ukraine's devastated. I don't see how Ukraine's really going to come back from this. So many of their either Ukrainians have died or Ukrainians have left. I don't see how they're really going to be able to come back from this. So the just selling weapons, I mean, maybe there's a deal that can be strike there. That's the only thing that I can think of is some crazy technology that, short of nukes, you can't give them nukes, but maybe the mother of all bombs, even that is a very risky thing to do. Moab or whatever, that was like dropped back during Trump's first term. It's a giant bomb that wasn't nuclear, but I don't think even that, I think Putin is not going to be down for that. But maybe there's some sort of weaponry that you can give Ukraine. But like I said, it's the manpower, it's the bodies. That's what they lack, and that's what they probably really want. But I don't see how they're going to get it. So it's going to have to be first of all, behind closed doors, because just negotiating out in front of the reporters like that, there's just no way. There's got to be way too many intricate details, and obviously they are. But it's still kind of weird to me that they decided to go on camera before they had something set in place. Now, I heard that Zelensky wanted that. Maybe he was trying to make an appeal to the American public. I don't think that really worked. First of all, there's a lot of partisanship that's going on. I mean, if you don't like Trump, then Trump was the bad guy in the whole thing. If you like Trump, then Zelensky was a bad guy in the whole thing. It's just kind of a mess. So there's like no nuance. It's, of course, I mean, that's just how American politics goes nowadays. But there's no nuance that is being taken, for all the feedback and all the people that are chiming in. I don't think there's any nuance that's taking place. But there's going to be a very thin line that's going to have to kind of be walked at this point. And honestly, it doesn't look good. My conclusion is that this is really not looking too good. I don't see, obviously, Zelensky went on like Fox News to, he said thank you to the American people and to Trump. And he talked about how maybe, there's still possibility for a peace deal, but it's gonna be tough, and I don't really know what kind of small details they're gonna have to hash out, and that's really unfortunate because I think for me, I would like to see it come to an end. I know a lot of people love to make the comparison that this is like World War II, the Czechoslovakia, the whole like appeasement thing all over again. I think there's maybe some truth to that. But I also just don't think that. I think that you have to try for peace here. I don't like to see Ukraine continuing to fight like that, and because I don't think it's going to go well for them. Obviously, Russia is now moving at a snail's pace over in the Eastern Front, but they are slowly but steady gaining more and more land. So I think you want to peace out sooner rather than later. But also, yeah, for the people that are making the metaphorical appeasement, like Putin is Hitler. Sorry, I don't need to censor myself here on this channel. Because I don't really trust that he wouldn't attack again either. I think he absolutely would, and that's why I understand a little bit of Zelensky's argument here that he wants some sort of security guarantee. Because, why wouldn't Putin just wait for his manpower to rebuild? Obviously, he already has his war machine built back up. He's gotten off of a lot of Western trade, he's selling all his resources to China and India and anyone else that's willing to somewhat play ball. So why wouldn't he just attack again in a couple years? So yeah, I think I can see some of that argument to World War II, but I still think that find a peace deal, end this, because I don't like seeing, all this stuff. It's rough to watch. I've been watching, this. I've obviously been keeping pretty close track with it for a long time now, and it's rough watching the videos, seeing what's going on. I don't like it, and it's weird to me to see certain sides continue to push for war. That is unfortunate. I feel like that is not good because I think Ukraine is just dooming themselves the longer this goes on. But let me know what you think.